You may be tempted to bite off a little more than you can chew with Mars conjunct Jupiter this week. Just be mindful because it could be tough to swallow with Mars going on to square Saturn. My name is Comet. This is my cosmic corner of the internet, and welcome to your Magic Monday astrological forecast for the week of August 12th to August 18th, 2024, where we are gathered to discuss, just as we gather to discuss every single week with a cosmic beverage in hand, what is ahead for your week ahead, how you will feel this week's astrological events and every week's astrological events threaded within your practical daily life, how you will feel this astrology within your workplace, within your friendships, within your relationship. And beyond just letting you know your weekly horoscope, here on Magic Monday, I really strive to empower you to align with the astrology in order to make your life a little bit more magical. So we really highlight opportunities around how you can co-create with the cosmos to take advantage of some of the more opportune energies aligning for you, and how you can navigate mindfully around some of these celestial challenges that this week most certainly has in store and this month most certainly has in store. This is because of the current building aspect of Jupiter square Saturn. Now this exacts early next week, but it is being activated deeply this week, and the aspect itself is two very slow moving planets. It's Jupiter square Saturn. And so this tension around where it is that we are growing and wanting to move forward and where it is that we feel stuck, this is alive within the bulk of August 2024's astrology. So if you're just feeling a little uncomfy, if things feel a little spiky, if things are feeling hard, they're feeling stagnant, they're feeling stuck, you don't resonate with your old life, but you don't understand what your new life is, you could feel caught between worlds, caught between selves, who you used to be, who it is that you are now, elements of your life now no longer resonate, but you feel lost and confused, looking to the future. If you're feeling any of those energies, my love, you are feeling Jupiter square Saturn. And I did do an all signs deep dive video on this aspect, so you can dive into it. There's a lot to be said, both collectively as well as within your chart, and that video will take you deeper. But this week, Mars comes in and triggers that alignment. And so you could absolutely be feeling this tension brewing in the cosmos. And with the energy of Mars, Mars is where it is that we fight. It's where it is that we defend. It's our anger, it's our action, it's our assertion. So with Mars in the midst here, we are wanting to advocate. We are wanting to defend. We are wanting to get involved. And first, Mars talks to Jupiter. So if Mars is a boxer about to go into the ring, first it talks to Jupiter. That's the coach. And the coach is saying, you got this. You're going to show your opponent. You've got all the energy in the world. And Mars goes into the ring feeling this sense of bravado around, I got this. I could take on my opponent. But there is a danger this week of having a little bit more bark than bite. Because we could find when we get in the ring around whatever your Mars story this week is, we'll talk about it, you might find that you underestimated your opponent. You underestimated the amount of energy that you realistically had at your disposal, and you underestimated how much you were running your mouth around how much you were going to defeat this opponent. And with Mars square Saturn, you could find that there is a situation that you feel defeated by, especially after that bravado of Mars Jupiter around, I've got this, I've got all the time in the world to get involved with this conflict. I've got all the energy to beat this boxer in the ring. I've got all the space to take on these extra projects. There's just an energy where we're overestimating the amount of energy that we have to realistically expend. We are overestimating the amount that it'll take to win this battle. And we could be overrunning our mouth. This alignment happens in Gemini. And with Mars square Saturn, it's hitting a wall around realizing, ooh, I did not realistically summarize how much energy I had for this fight, or I did not realistically take into account the opponent here. Because we need to keep in mind that we are in Mercury retrograde. Mercury re-enters Leo this week. It goes on to square Uranus for the second time out of a series of 3, which is a huge part of the Mercury retrograde story. And so there could be an energy where we didn't get all the information, right? We could have been running our mouth before stepping into the boxing ring, and we didn't take the time to figure out who our opponent was. We didn't take the time to take into account how much we realistically trained, or if we slept enough to take on this battle. And I'm not saying we're all boxers this week, but I am saying that there could be a temptation within your life to get in the ring on a situation, to get involved in some workplace beef, to take on an extra project even though you're already feeling burnt out, to even lash out at somebody. And with Mars square Saturn, there could be an energy where you realize, ooh, I bit off a little bit more than I could chew here. I was a little little over optimistic with how much time I realistically had to take on this work project. I was a little over optimistic around what good would come out of me getting involved in this workplace drama that actually has nothing to do with me. I was a little over optimistic of my capacity to even have the time to take on this issue. And Mars is anger. And so with Mars on Jupiter, you could be feeling angry about something. And for many of you, likely, and for many of you, perhaps rightfully so. But what I would say is that with Mars Jupiter, we could be a little bit more likely, but what I can say with this Mars Jupiter energy answering to Mercury retrograde, you could be a little bit more reactive, particularly with your words. And the thing about Mercury retrograde is that what goes around comes around. And there can be an energy where there are consequences for the things that we say in the heat of the moment, or the person that we choose to direct our anger and our frustration towards. And with Mars square Saturn, those consequences could come in a little sooner. And with Mars square Saturn, those consequences could come in. And with Mars square Saturn, you could feel like you hit a wall. And with Mars square Saturn, the consequences could come in a little sooner, particularly if we choose to pop off or lash out at somebody else, to allow our anger to get the better of us. And so we will talk about this energy so much more in depth. Don't worry, it's not that we're all going to be boxing this week, but there just can be certain matters within your life that, yes, are frustrating, but you are being asked to leverage a more Saturnian approach around if you're going to go send a text message to somebody because you're upset, give it 6 hours. Like, wait a beat before you get in the boxing ring and get involved in workplace drama that you don't even have all the information around. Take a beat, gather the information, because we may have some surprising information coming up this week as we do have Mercury square Uranus. So there is an ask, while there's a more impulsive, reactive, angry energy this week, there is an ask to take a breath, take a beat, take a beat. I'm not saying that you are not right for advocating for yourself, for defending yourself, for standing up for a certain cause, or whatever is alive within your world. There might be a need to take a step back, not let the impulses guide you, and realistically look at your bandwidth. Do I have the time to get involved in this conflict? Do I have the energy to get involved in this conflict? Is there more information that I need to learn before I react impulsively? Those may be important questions to ask yourself this week. So we will dive into this so much deeper thematically as well as day by day. But before we do, take a step inside my cosmic cafe. My loves, what are you sipping on to start this week? There's some interesting ebbs and flows. I mean, Mars is our energy levels, so there could be parts of you that feel very energized and ready, and you're ready to take on new challenges and go new places. But then there's also an energy of Mars square Saturn. So all of that enthusiasm, you could feel like you hit a wall of sorts. So it might be helpful to just make sure that you have your green tea, your coffee, whatever it is that helps you keep going. You may feel a little sluggish with Mars square Saturn happening a little later this week. And with these like kind of peaks and valleys of our energy levels, really just striving for here. Right? Really striving for here. Like there could be an energy to get very hyper and excitable with Mars on Jupiter and then crash and be absolutely sluggish and drained. So see where possible and perhaps choose the beverages that support you in kind of being towards the midline. For me, my midline beverage is just my cup of coffee, splash of almond milk, classic, predictable, routine. We love it. Venus is in Virgo after all. Sometimes the simple things are the best things. I want to just quickly give a shout out to Claudia and her shop Soulflow for the candles. She sent me so many beautiful things, and I just want to give her and her beautiful shop a shout out. Check it out within the description. I always feel so comforted when I have one of her candles burning next to me. Something around it just feels right, especially this Leo season. I also want to give a heads up that this week we have the Aspects in Astrology Self-Care Astrology group class. If you are interested, it lands this Thursday at 2 p.m. PDT. If you're interested in joining, even if you do join Self-Care Astrology and you're not able to make the live class, you do get a replay of not just this group class, but every group class. This is in addition, of course, to the full online 8-week course program. You can add on weekly voice memos from me so I can support your journey. You can add on consultations if you'd like. Great way to not just understand astrology, but really understand astrology in order to activate your own chart's magic, in order to better understand yourself and what your celestial blueprint came here to do. I love our self-care astrology community so much. We have a fab group chat where we're always having astrological discussions. I love our weekly classes. It's the highlight of my month, truly every month. And if you join self-care astrology, I build the classes based around what people are wanting to learn about and what people's availability is that's within the cohort. So it's absolutely customized to the individuals and their study of astrology. Your chart is utilized in group class examples. So if that sounds enticing to you, I would so love to have you. You can use the code MAGIC to save 22% on any tier. You are feeling the call to want to join our cosmic community and join us for aspects class. I love aspects because really that tells the story within the birth chart. Like we can understand planets, we can understand houses, but aspects are how the different components of you are working together or beefing. Like to me, that's the juiciness of a birth chart, is understanding aspects. Nevertheless, would love to have you part of that. I'll link it below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into Vibe Check of the Week. So welcome to Vibe Check of the Week, which is our cosmic storytelling segment every single week. A huge part of how I like to relay astrology is I love to compare it to real life scenarios, because a lot of times just talking about energies around Mars conjoining Jupiter, Mercury square Uranus, Venus square Jupiter, that doesn't necessarily elicit strong understandings naturally around, well, what does that mean for me? Like my practical life, right? Because we can talk about the stars all day long, but we are here on planet Earth, down here in life school. So it really is understanding how these energies practically weave within our experience. So to do this and to tell this story, we compare all of the aspects and energies that we will experience this week to a real life scenario. I'm not saying this exact situation will play out within your universe. I'm just saying tune into the vibe, tune into the dynamic to figure out where this astrology may surface within your world. So this week's astrology feels like the following scenario. We will say that you are an avid baseball fan, particularly of your team, the Shooting Stars. You love the Shooting Stars. You grew up in a Shooting Stars family. One of your first baby pics is you wearing a little Shooting Stars cap. You've been to games ever since you were little. You watch the games with your family. You try to go to a game in person every season. It means a lot to you. It's always been part of your life. And for many seasons, they have not been doing so well, but they're actually in the midst of a season where they're doing quite well. And so of course you're going to a game, you're very excited, you've got your jersey on, you've got your baseball cap, you get to the stadium, you get some nachos, you get a Coca-Cola, and you sit down for a game of baseball. And it takes until the bottom of the first inning that you realize that the individuals seated within the bleachers behind you are rooting for the opposing team, the Galaxies. And that's all well and good. You're sports fans, you understand sportsmanship, but a lot of the comments that they're making and yelling, bellowing, honestly, throughout the game, rather than being in support of their team, it is derogatory and discouraging towards your team. They are making disparaging comments towards particular players on the Shooting Stars. They're talking trash about the Shooting Stars, saying that they're going to blow it like they have in the past couple seasons. And you're turning to your best friend who's seated next to you in the bleachers, and you guys are just like, can you believe these people? And so finally, it's like bottom of the fourth, and one of the people says something about one of your favorite players, and you're like, oh heck no, this has gone too far. And you say to your best friend, should I say something? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, we paid money for these tickets and we're just hearing them say all of this messed up stuff. And your best friend's like, yeah, give him a piece of your mind. Give him a piece of your mind. So you're feeling a little spicy. And that's something to keep in mind this week, is that a lot of us could be feeling a little spicy. You're feeling a little feisty. And so after being hyped up by your best friend, you're like, okay, I'm going to give these people a piece of my mind. So you say, you know what I think? And you start running your mouth as you're turning around. The issue is, throughout the course of the game, you have been looking forward at the game and hearing their voices behind them, and their voices didn't particularly come across as very intimidating. You thought it was a group of two people, that was like the voices that you were hearing. But when you turn around, you see that it is a huge group of Galaxy fans, and you can tell because they're all wearing matching shirts. They all have matching face paint, okay? Matching face paint. And you realize that there is a lot of them, and they are much larger than you. Some of these people within this group could probably pick you up while you're still holding your nachos and Coca-Cola and throw you down to the baseball field, chuck you down to the baseball field. And so you are in the midst of running your mouth when you are taking in this information, and you're like, oh no, what did I do here? And so upon realizing just how many there are, you decide to cut it short and you're just like, I just think you should talk more respectfully around your team rather than trash talking the shooting stars. And so you've waged a battle and they're starting to react and talk to you. They've been drinking a lot of beer, okay, so they are all charged up and now they are talking to you and trying to instigate you for a fight or to talk more to them. But you've taken in the situation, you're like, okay, never mind. And so you just turn around and you just ignore them for the rest of the game, just watching the shooting stars and being like, please just ignore me, ignore that I said that. You were right in what you were saying, but you did not get all the information around who you were waging a battle against. Because there is a vibe this week where we simply do not have all of the information. Mercury is retrograde, and Mercury retrograde is the ruler of this Mars-Jupiter alignment. And with Mars-Jupiter, we could be more inclined to want to take a risk. We could be more inclined to want to shoot our shot. We could be more inclined to want to defend, to want to advocate. But we don't have all of the information quite yet, right? We have not accurately taken in the people that we are waging a battle with within the stands. And Mars-Jupiter is that energy around that impulse around, I need to say something. I need to speak my mind, right? This alignment happens in Gemini. And the energy of your best friend kind of like hyping you up, like, yeah, you got this. That's the energy of Jupiter and Gemini, hyping up Mars. Because Mars is ready to fight. Mars is, perhaps angry for some or motivated for others, right? And Jupiter's kind of hyping up Mars, like, you got this. Like, you can take them. But when it comes to having a hype person, Jupiter, while it can make us filled with optimism around you're going to show them and these are your beliefs, so you need to advocate for it, or you've got what it takes to take them on, ultimately Jupiter is in a position where it is not comfortable in. So when push comes to shove, your best friend is not going to take on this huge group of people with you, right? Like, even though they were hyping you up, when it comes to your best friend, there is a little bit more of a, a bark than a bite, which again, violence is never the answer. I'm not advocating that this week. I'm just saying with Mars Jupiter, there can be this energy around being full of hot air around something. And then with Mars square Saturn, being a little shut down or having certain obstacles where it's like, ooh, okay, yeah, I actually can't take on this person despite what my best friend hype man is telling me, right? And so I'm not saying all of us are going to get into some sort of battle at a baseball game this week. I'm just saying there's a huge temptation this week to bite off more than we can realistically handle. Because with Mars squaring Saturn, we're having to get very realistic around what we have the time and energy for. You might be in the right, but you don't have the physical stamina to take on this whole group of people with their face paint and their matching jerseys, okay? You just don't. You might want to get involved in a certain workplace dispute, but you may not have the time to. Like with Mars, Jupiter, there's an energy where it's like, I've got all the time. And then you realize shortly after, I actually don't have the time. I actually don't have the time for this. I don't have the stamina for this. I don't have the energy for this. I don't have the resources for this. Saturn makes us confront the finite limitations within our world. And with Mars Jupiter, we could have been like, yeah, I can take them, or I can say yes to this extra project. I can get involved in this workplace drama. But you will slowly realize after, I don't have all the information before I got involved, and now it's a big mess. And I'm drained. I'm feeling more burnt out because now I got in the midst of this drama or in the midst of this conflict, or I added on these extra projects to my plate. Because for some, that's what's coming up. Mars is our motivation. And with Mars on Jupiter, you could be feeling very motivated around, yeah, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And keep in mind, Jupiter and Gemini is kind of like that hype man, that best friend who's saying, yeah, you can do it. You can do all of the things. You can do whatever you have your mind set to. But what Gemini can lack sometimes is focus. Like we could be scattering our energies so much so that we're not able to really create forward momentum in one particular direction, and it's leading to our burnout. So there is an ask this week. Before you stand up for a cause, even if it's worthy, before you send a text, take a beat, take a pause, take a moment. Because more information may need to surface, and I will say this week there could be surprising information that surfaces with Mercury squaring Uranus, And also, you may just need that moment to figure out if this is something really worth fighting for, or if this is something worthy of investing your energy into. Because if you say yes to everything this week, you will be saying no to yourself, which means you'll be feeling drained, sluggish, run ragged with Mars square Saturn. If you try to say yes to all of the people, talk out of both sides of your mouth, I could do this, I could do this. It's like, what do you physically have the stamina to not just take on, but to complete? Like, some of us are barking more than we're biting. We're getting involved in conflicts that we don't have the intent of really finishing. We're getting in boxing rings and then taking in our competition, being like, never mind. You have a good day. There's just an energy before you allow your impulses to guide you around. I'm going to take on this head on. Take a beat, take a moment before you send that text message, before you say yes to that project. Take a moment, realistically take in, do I have the time for this? Do I have the energy for this? Do I have the motivation for this? And is this a cause worth fighting for? Because it may be a cause worth fighting for, but just know that there's drawbacks to everything. And Mars square Saturn makes that clear. When you give your precious time and energy to something, you are taking away from another arena of your life that could benefit from it. And already with this Jupiter square Saturn energy, a lot of us are feeling very scattered. We're feeling pulled in many different directions. So really be an astute judge around what is worthy of investing your time and energy. That is going to be the ask this week. And please, for the love of God, maybe turn around before you start running your mouth at a baseball game. Just saying. We're going to go ahead and take it into our day-by-day analysis. I do want to just let you know that I am located in California. So when I give my horoscopes, I give them in the time zone PDT, or Pacific time zone. Please adjust to your local time zone before you put it into your planner or make a mental note, as many of these energies may exact for you at a different time than the one that I state, or even on a different day than the one that I state. I also want to let you know that I have timestamps below available for your convenience. So if you feel so inclined to jump to a particular day, to return back to a particular day, you have the capacity to do just that. I have a tendency to talk quite fast, especially when we have some Gemini energy in the cosmos. YouTube does have a setting. You can hit the gear icon where you can slow me down. So you can adjust the playback speed in order to adjust the way that I speak so that it aligns with how it is that you prefer to process information. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology forecast for Monday, August 12th. So happy Monday. Welcome to your forecast for Monday, August 12th. You may start your day feeling a bit unsteady. You may be feeling unsettled. You may be feeling uncomfortable. And this is reflected by the first quarter moon in Scorpio, which exacts at 8:19 a.m. PDT. This is a check-in point from last week's Leo new moon, which I would love to know. How did you celebrate? How did that energy feel? You can get caught up on last week's Magic Monday above, as well as within the description. This first quarter moon is a check-in from that. So ultimately, the Leo new moon asked, what makes my heart happy? What makes my spirit shine? And with the first quarter moon in Scorpio, it asks, what transformation am I willing to go through in order to get that? Or what am I willing to release in order to move towards my heart-centered, soul-centered yes? This is also a check-in point to next week's Aquarius full moon, which lands on Monday, August 19th. And just keep that in mind. As we navigate this week, we're getting closer and closer to a full moon. So your emotions can be feeling very heightened. Your emotions can be feeling quite intense as it builds. And so with this first quarter moon, the biggest theme is that you just might be feeling caught between worlds. And that's also reflected by the Jupiter square Saturn alignment that is occurring at the moment. Your new life will cost you your old one, but there's an energy around being between worlds. Not yet embodying your new life, but not resonating with your old life. And feeling lost, feeling in liminal space, feeling in an immense time of transition. And for some, there could just be like a lack of clarity. Like things could be falling away, things could be transforming, but it's like, what's coming in? And I do want to let you know, if that is the case, there's a lot of changes that are happening. There have been certain things within your life that are being taken away. Even if you do not see it currently, energetically, that means something new is coming in. When a lot is swept away, energetically, it does mean that it is creating space. But it can make us nervous when things are changing, right? That can be making us feel quite uneasy at this time. And again, there could just be this energy around feeling very stuck with Jupiter square Saturn building, around wanting to move forward, wanting to feel free, but feeling very stuck, feeling very trapped by our current circumstances. Feeling like our growth is taking place at such a stagnant rate, or that it's always going to feel like it does right now. You could just be feeling very uncomfortable with how things are. And for some, you might feel like you need to do something now. You need to make a decision now. You need to figure it all out now. And it is a transitional state. And I know it's uncomfortable, but there is an ask to kind of sit in the feeling, like not feel like you need to rush past this hallway. Astrologically speaking, like you're not going to stay in the hallway forever. This is just a transition to get from one room of your life, one passage of your life to the next. And there could be an energy of freaking out around being in the hallway, around, I don't want to be in the hallway. Let me run into the first room possible just so I'm not in this hallway, just so I'm not in this uncomfortable space, so I'm not in this uncomfortable feeling. But there's an energy to just sit with the discomfort, as uncomfortable as it is. And everything within you could be wanting to distract yourself or wanting to tell yourself, even just like comforting things, or again, running into the first room possible, even if it's not for your highest and best good. But there's an ask, especially with the moon being in the position of its fall, around just sitting in the uncomfortable feelings. Even if those feelings are, despair or dread or fear, sit with it, learn from it, see what it's here to tell you, and do not allow the next room that you go into or the next chapter of your life to be dictated from fear or dictated from discomfort. Around, it feels uncomfortable to be in this transitional state. It feels uncomfortable to release what I've known. So I'm just going to run for the first thing that's here just so I have something. And the energy of the first quarter moon in Scorpio is just like, feel it. Feel the discomfort of being in the hallway. You're not going to be in the hallway forever. It's a transitional period. And it's uncomfortable in the interim. This month's astrology is very uncomfortable, especially for those of you who have mutable placements around 17 degrees. So that's if you have Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces around 17 degrees, personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. You could be feeling profoundly stuck, scattered, all over the place, lost. And it's okay to be lost. And again, part of you can think, oh my God, I'm so lost. I've got to cling for something so I don't feel lost, so I feel found. But there's also something a little exciting about being lost. And if possible, reframe it that way around, this is exciting. My life is transforming into something I do not yet recognize. I am transforming into something I do not yet recognize. Sometimes like transformation, it starts to show up in more subtle ways where like, you're just starting to realize you're not resonating with your life anymore. There could have been certain activities, certain people, certain situations, certain jobs where you're just realizing this is no longer in alignment, and you're starting to realize that you no longer resonate. And again, we could panic and be like, what's happening? What's happening to me? But it is exciting. It does mean that you are transitioning into something different. It does mean that you are up-leveling. And I'm not saying that all of us are, dropping all of our friends and quitting all of our jobs and making all of these huge sweeps, but it starts subtly, right? It starts subtly. It just starts in this energy around starting to feel more and more like the life that you are living is not your own. It might have felt like your own. It could be operating in last season's script of your life, right? Like there is a need to update the script or to allow new sides of ourselves. And in that discomfort around, gosh, I don't resonate with the script any longer. I don't resonate with these characters or the situations of my life. You could want to cling to what was, right? Around, this is the season that I know. This is the life that I know. But you are holding yourself back from the character development around, how am I evolving as a character? How's my life evolving? And sometimes that in between is quite uncomfortable. And the first quarter moon in Scorpio is highlighting that. And what I want to say on Monday, even if it's not coming through around, I need to change my life, I need something different, which could come through for a lot of people. You could just be feeling an energy on Monday where it's like change has got to come, change is gonna come. For some, there could be an energy around something's got to change because I can't keep living this way. For some, there's just an awareness around my life is transforming and I don't really have a say about it, right? And for others, there could just be a lot of intensity brewing on Monday. You could have to make a decision of some sort. And what I will say is in the morning time, before the first quarter moon, the Scorpio moon does trine Saturn. So we could be feeling things intensely, but with the trine to Saturn, there's an ask around how it is that we are stabilizing and regulating ourselves, especially if you do have to make a decision. Again, Be mindful of impulses. I'm not saying everybody needs to impulsively make a decision, but let's say at work you have to choose something. Make sure that you are making that decision from a place of empowerment and not fear. We do not step into our higher version when we are making decisions out of fear or out of scarcity. Around, I'm just going to run in the first room because I'm scared to be in the hallway. This hallway is scary. I don't like it, right? Viewing the world through this lens of fear is not a very expansive way to view things. And so it's important, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's doing something before important conversations to just ground yourself so you're able to approach the conversation, or even for some, the decision making, from an empowered perspective around, I'm not just going to run into the first room that I see, I'm going to run into the right room for me. And there can just be an ask to do what helps you regulate and reset, especially for those who I'm talking to who are feeling very burnt out. Because that is also an energy this week where there is an awareness around when you say yes to everybody, you say no to yourself. When you try to be everything to everybody, you are not able to be enough for yourself. Like, there is an awareness around saying yes to everybody, biting off more than you can chew, that you do pay the price for that energetically. And burnout shows up in many different ways. Sometimes it shows up in physical ways, which could show up with Mars square Saturn, like I'm physically drained. Things that used to motivate me and excite me no longer do. It also can show up in mental ways. We have a hard time focusing. Our brain feels like it's gone mush, right? With Mercury retrograde particularly. And sometimes we're spiritually burnout, right? Like we are just not giving our soul what it needs to rejuvenate. You know, the plane of Earth is very dense. It's very dense here. If you are not taking space and time to pray, to meditate, to visit sacred sites, you will lose that luster or lose that intuitive connection. And don't worry, you can always get it back, right? You can always reconnect and tap in, but you do pay the price somewhere. You might think you could do it all, that you could handle it all, but something pays the price somewhere, energetically. I just got Reiki done from my friend Melly, who's at Reiki City in San Diego. If you are in San Diego, go see her. Oh my God, she is a miracle worker. I am not kidding. She's so incredibly in tune. She is so good at what it is that she does. And I felt bad. I literally felt bad going to her and sitting on her table because I was like, I feel bad that you have to get into my energy right now because I just know it's a mess. I just know it's a mess. And it was basically like all of my chakras, all my energy stores were like basically closed. And she was saying that like what I'm doing right now is just being of so much output, like just constant output, just like filming clients and like being very connected in that way. But I was not and have not been, honestly, I've not been great at this, rejuvenating that energy store for myself. And I want to share the tip that she gave me because this has been incredibly helpful, especially if you're noticing that you're kind of in that spiritual burnout camp. I'm with you, my love. Let's fix it together. So what she recommended is when you're meditating, send a grounding cord down into the earth. And when we send energy, excess energy down into the earth is able to recycle it and take it on. So like residue, things that you just don't want to keep with you, it helps you reset and just kind of release what you no longer want to be holding on to so you're not holding on to all this dense energy. Then it's equally important after you kind of recycle the excess energy that you connect to spirit, right? That you connect to God, that you pray, that you meditate, that you do things that help rejuvenate our energy stores. Because like I said, earth is dense. It can be very depressing. You know, Jupiter squaring Saturn right now, a lot of people's spirits are down. And it's important to connect to your ancestors, to your spiritual support team, to your guides in order to have the hope to keep going, right? And in order to have the hope to keep going. It's only been a couple of days, but I've observed ever since I started doing that, I felt more like myself again. It's been slow and steady. I do feel like a lot of us are having to work the muscle around how it is that we soulfully and spiritually show up for ourselves, but it is important to release excess energy and connect spiritually, especially if you're just feeling burnt out, drained. Things used to excite me and now they don't. Again, maybe that's a sign that your life is evolving and shifting, but it's important to take care of your energy first. If you are in a situation where you don't know what to do and you feel so disconnected from yourself that you don't know the right course of action, firstly, Mercury's retrograde, this is the time to go within, to reflect, and make your priority showing up for yourself, getting into the best energetic alignment. Because if you're already operating from this place around being scattered, being physically burnt out, mentally burnt out, spiritually burnt out, you are not going to be able to proceed in the most empowered way possible. So what you need to do is show up for your energy first, because when you are feeling tapped into source, you're feeling grounded within your own experience, you're feeling clear, you're a clear channel, you're clear on your intuition, that is what's going to help you proceed and make the best decision. So if you're feeling drained, if you're already feeling overwhelmed, there is an ask to stop everything, show up for yourself before making a huge decision. There's an ask for that. And so having that meditation where you ground down into the earth, send the excess energy and connect to spirit, like Scorpio moon, trine Saturn, have rituals that support your soul, okay? It's gonna be important, especially as we get closer to Jupiter square Saturn. And having those rituals that help you feel grounded, even if things are out of your control. And I say that because later on that evening, the Scorpio moon will oppose Uranus and Taurus. So there could be unexpected events that are happening, unexpected emotions. Things could be feeling volatile. Things could be feeling out of control. And it's important the practices that we do to bring ourselves back into a state of balance, a state of feeling stabilized in order to make the best decision possible. And so I'd say on Monday night, you might be feeling a little scattered. You might have a hard time sleeping. It might be important to ground your energy. On Tuesday, August 13th, the Scorpio moon will trine Neptune around 2 a.m. So this can give very vivid, intense dreams potentially. Some of you, if you happen to be awake during this time, could feel more dialed into intuition, can be feeling more creative. The moon is then void until it enters Sagittarius around 3 a.m. So while our emotional landscape could have been a little intense when the moon was in Scorpio, with the moon entering Sagittarius, we should feel that we have access to a little bit more of an optimistic energy. Again, the Sagittarius moon is answering to its ruler Jupiter, who is not in a position where it thrives, and it's also being hit by a square to Saturn. So our optimism may feel a little muted, but when it comes to Saturn energy, it does ask us to work the muscle. Like with the energy of Sagittarius, it asks us, what is your arrow pointed to? What is the direction that you want to move in? And maybe with the day before, it's like, I don't know where my life is going. I feel so lost. But with the energy of the moon in Sagittarius, it's working that muscle around what am I excited about? Or what is one thing that I know to be true around the direction that I am moving and what feels the most soulfully aligned to me? There might be a need to work the muscle of hope and optimism and intentionally choose joy or choose something that you're excited by. It may not be easy necessarily, but it is something that we are being asked to work the muscle of. And the energy of the Sagittarius moon sextile Pluto is this reminder around you have overcome many obstacles before. You have reinvented yourself before, and you will persevere with whatever it is that you are navigating currently as well. It's this energy around remembering your own personal power by remembering the trials and tribulations that you have already undergone, and to continue to point your arrow in the direction of what has personal meaning to you or what feels good for you to follow. And later on that day, the Sagittarius moon will square Mercury in Virgo. So there could be a temptation to want to gloss over the details or to push aside certain errands or responsibilities, push them to a different day. Do keep in mind, Mercury's retrograde. So take that extra beat. You know, we have Mars, Jupiter building at this moment. So we're a little bit more reactive, a little bit more impulsive. You may want to fire off emails right as you draft them, fire off texts right as they pop in your head. Take a moment, reread, take that beat, double check is the ask here. And you also could just be feeling quite bored of the mundane. You know, Sagittarius moon wants an adventure. We have Mars, Jupiter aligning. So we're wanting to take on new challenges. We're wanting to take on new risks. We're feeling more spicy, right? We're feeling more adventurous. And so you could be feeling a little bored around, must I send the emails? Must I unload the dishwasher? Must I, right? And it is this balance. I mean, we are physical humans, and Mercury retrograde in Virgo is asking us to clean up our acts, right? Complete the incomplete, handle the task, clear out the clutter. But that does help you have more space in order to move forward. So there's really an ask. Handle the responsibilities, double check any messages that go out, but make sure to do things that are good for your soul too. Both those energies land in the morning. And I do want to say that as we continue on through the day, early Wednesday, so late Tuesday, we may have access to this energy. The Sagittarius moon will square Venus in Virgo. One thing that Virgo and Sagittarius have in common is that they do tend to be very honest, straight up energy. Like I was talking about last week, with Virgo energy, there can be certain things that are getting under our skin. So keep in mind, we have this more explosive Mars-Jupiter energy that could make us more apt to want to fire off. We have Moon and Venus in very honest signs squaring off. There can be an energy where we may be having to pick our battles also around the home or with those that we love. We could be a little more blunt than we intended to be. Keep in mind, Mercury's retrograde, which can indicate this energy around conversations had now, comments made now may come around the bend. We may need to revisit it. And yes, what you said was likely honest with these two energies getting together, but it might have been a little blunt. So make sure to coat what it is that you're saying with love, as well as contemplating what battles are truly worth advocating for. On Wednesday, August 14th at 8:22 a.m. PDT, Mars, the planet of action, assertion, advocacy, will align with Jupiter. And firstly, Jupiter expands what it touches. So the good thing about this is that you should be feeling more motivated on Wednesday. Like, you might find that there's a situation where you have not been able to defend yourself, you have not been able to stick up for yourself, stick up for something important. Now with Mars, Jupiter, you could finally feel like you have the courage to stick up for yourself. Now, be intentional with your words, okay? This alignment is answering to Mercury, which is retrograde. You could be in the right, but still be in the wrong if you address the issue in the wrong way or hit below the belt. So it's important to be grounded in what it is that you have to say, but also be intentional with the words selected. Okay, that is the ask. Don't let the heat of the moment get the better of you, because for some of you, there's just an energy where it's like, absolutely not. I'm going to defend myself here. I'm going to advocate for myself here. For some of you, you could feel inclined this week to want to take a risk. You know, some of you could want to shoot your shot, right? Mars is kind of this bravado energy. So you could be feeling yourself. You could shoot your shot in terms of a collaboration, in terms of somebody that you want to date, somebody that you want to be with. Like with Mars, Jupiter, we do have access to some motivation, to some courage midweek. Just be mindful that Mars does square Saturn, right? And I'm not saying this to be negative, because I do feel that this can be a courageous, motivating influence. I'm just saying there can be an ask on Wednesday. Contemplate the worst case scenario. If you go up to this person and they shut you down, a lot of times it's no big deal. Pick yourself back up and go on. But there might be a need with Mars square Saturn to contemplate, okay, what is the worst way that this can go? And am I more comfortable with that potential option of how this could go? Or am I more comfortable with never having found out if this person that I am pitching would want to work with me, or if this person that I like would want me? Like, there is a need to be realistic about what it is that you are shooting your shot around, or the risk that you're taking around, am I comfortable with the worst case scenario? Because that could be potential. Some of us could feel a little shot down a little later this week, could feel a little defeated. But if you find that that isn't as scary as the option of never finding out in general how this person feels, or if this person would want to work with, then shoot your shot, right? There's just a need to be realistic about it, because with Mars, Jupiter, we could just be feeling ourselves a little much and more inclined to take risks, more inclined to be courageous, more motivated potentially. And it's important because Mars, Jupiter can also be this energy around, yeah, I've got the time. Right? I've got the time. I can take on this extra work project. I can get this all done this week. And with Mars square Saturn, some of us are going to realize, ooh, I did not have the time. I overestimated my ability to get this all done. We're just being a little more optimistic. So I'd be mindful with the social plans that you say yes to around Wednesday. You might feel this energy on Tuesday and Thursday as well. I would be mindful with the work projects that you add on. I would be mindful setting unrealistic deadlines if you work with clients around, oh, I can turn this around in a week. Can you? Can you? Like with Mars square Saturn, really get realistic. With Mercury retrograde, look at the data around the past amount of time that these projects have taken. Be realistic. You got to balance the idealism with the Mars Jupiter energy with the realism with Mars square Saturn. If you think it's going to take a week, maybe say that it's going to take 2 weeks. Just give yourself a nice cushion. With Mercury retrograde, we do not need to rush anything. Even if you're feeling yourself and you're like, I can do it in a week, allow yourself to under-promise and over-deliver. Because there's a temptation with Mars and Jupiter aligning in Gemini to have more bark than our bite, right? To under-deliver and over-promise. Like, a lot of us are running our mouth this week. And can our actions back up what our mouth is saying? That's the question. And so while this can be an energy where you're feeling more motivated, you're more inclined to take a risk, some of us can be feeling more angry, right? With Jupiter expanding what it touches, you could be feeling a little bit more explosive, a little bit more triggered, a little bit more reactive. And it's important to breathe before you react. I'm telling you, before you fire off any text message, before you get involved in this workplace drama, before you turn around in the baseball stands, pause, wait. Gather information if possible, or even just wait 6 hours before you send that text and see if you're still heated. Because if you react in the heat of the moment, if you allow pride to get the better of you, Mercury does re-enter Leo a little later today, you may find with Mercury retrograde, you're like, ooh, that was not the right choice of words. Like, I should not have used those words when I was talking to those fans. Like, I hit below the belt just as they were doing. There's a need to watch our impulses, watch our reactions. With Mars square Saturn, prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. Not that it's going to happen, but just to get you acquainted. It could help you in deciding, should I turn around? Okay, worst case scenario, it's a pack of rabid Rottweilers that are behind me. Am I okay with that potential worst case scenario? Or am I okay with the worst scenario around just sitting here and eating my nachos and watching the rest of the baseball game? Like, there's just a need to prepare yourself for the worst, expect the best. And with Mercury entering Leo a little later on today, like I said, it's important not to let pride get the better of you, especially with your words. We are building to a Mercury Cazimi on Sunday. And when Mercury is in the rays of the sun, we don't see things clearly. We're not thinking clearly. We don't have all the information, like I said. And so there can be an energy where we're letting pride, or no, they're talking about my team, right? So I need to defend my team. Like, sometimes it could be a little more challenging to separate pride or ego from the logistics of a situation. And we also just can find that perspective is not always there. There's an energy where with Mars, Jupiter, you might think you have all the time. Like, some of you could even have road rage and things of that nature. And with Mars, Jupiter, you're like, I have all the time. I will follow this person who cut me off and teach them a lesson. But it's like, do I realistically have the time? And do I need to teach this person a lesson? Like, your pride could just be wounded because they cut you off, right? And with Mercury in Leo, we could be seeing things through the lens of, they did that to me, or this is how I feel. And we might not be taking into account the whole perspective of the matter on if this is a battle worth fighting for. For some of you, maybe it is. I would just say, give yourself a pause. Give yourself a pause. Choose your words intentionally before proceeding. And just know, with the energy of the moon in Sagittarius all day, there's an energy around being on our soapbox, right? Around this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And I need to teach you a lesson, people in the stands, around what's right or wrong. Or I need to teach this person who cut me off a lesson around what's right or wrong. At the grocery store, there could be a dispute and you could feel like you have to get involved to teach this person right or wrong. Listen, you're not the universe. You're not in charge of other people's lessons, and you could burn yourself out trying to teach people lessons or be people's karma. It's just out of your hands. And so the Sagittarius moon opposes Mars and opposes Jupiter. So even if it's not that dramatic, you could just be feeling a little annoyed, a little frustrated with certain work stuff. You could be not in the mood to work. Like, moon opposite Jupiter can sometimes make us more inclined to want to procrastinate, or maybe you're planning your next trip rather than working. And with the energy of the Sagittarius moon squaring Saturn around 12 p.m., there could be an energy of realizing, shoot, I just spent the whole morning either getting the drama on this petty workplace beef or planning this vacation, and I have not been working. Like, Saturn energy is consequences energy, and we do pay a consequence for everything, right? And that's why it's important to understand what battles are worth fighting for, because sometimes it's like the universe saw that happen. The universe heard what those people were yelling behind you. The universe saw that person cut you off. People deal with their own karma. You don't have to be an agent of the universe and teach people a lesson and teach people right from wrong. Again, I'm not saying that you're not valid in your moral convictions and what it is that you want to stand up for. And I do feel like it's appropriate, absolutely, to advocate and defend ourselves. I'm just saying, don't feel like it's your responsibility. Do not be burdened by the responsibility that you need to be people's karma or that you need to teach people a lesson. Like, trust the universe has got that. We pay a price for everything that we do. Okay, that's the energy of Saturn. And so that person's karma is their responsibility. And again, we pay the price for everything. So the price that you pay for getting involved in this workplace drama or using your precious time following this person on the highway who cut you off, you deal with the consequences in your own way around, dang, that's time that I could have been working on something that's actually important to me. Dang, now I'm late on this deadline because I was planning for this vacation all morning. We pay the price for everything. And so don't feel that you need to be an agent of the universe and teach people a lesson. And also know that you could pay a price when you get involved in squabbles that really are none of your business. Let's just say with Mars, Jupiter, some of us could be a little nosy, okay? Some of us could be a little nosy, and it's just really important to mind your business, I would say, on Wednesday, especially if it does not have anything to do with you, okay? That evening, the Sagittarius moon trines the sun and trines Chiron, as we do have sun trine Chiron tomorrow, which should be some healing flows of energy. The evening should be fun. You could do something creative. You could do something adventurous that feels quite healing in some way. It's helpful to get perspective. Sometimes when we get absorbed in these petty disputes at the grocery store, at work, at a baseball game, right? We forget there's a big, beautiful world out here, and I'm arguing with some people in face paint on behalf of a baseball team that doesn't know I exist. Like, yeah, the love's real for the shooting stars, but in the bigger scheme of things, this is silly. And sometimes when we're in the heat in the moment, we are so wanting to prove our point or to be right or to be the victor that we forget that perspective. And it just feels like we're gaining that perspective in the evening time. On Thursday, August 15th, so first order of business is that the Leo Sun trines Chiron in Aries around 10:12 a.m. And there is an energy. Both of these signs have a lot to do with authentic self-expression. And so there is an energy on Thursday around how good it feels to be you, to express yourself in the ways that feel like you, to be proud of yourself and the person that you are. And keep in mind, at the end of the baseball game, at the end of the workday, at the end of any petty dispute or any frustrating situation you may have this week, at the end of all of that, you come home and you return back to yourself. And you're the one who has to sleep at night. You're the one who needs to live this life. So ultimately, you need to make the decisions that are in integrity with yourself, because you have to live with yourself. And sometimes, yes, the heat of the moment gets the better of us and we say things that it's like, that's not an accurate reflection of who it is that I am. And there's an energy on Thursday around come back to who it is that you are and the pride that you have to be who it is that you are, to make the decisions that allow you to keep your head held high. And sometimes that means taking a little punch to the ego around, gosh, I wish I could turn around and give these people a piece of my mind. But at the end of the day, I know who it is that I am. I'm not somebody who's going to sink to their level by yelling the sort of nasty stuff that they are. And that's healing within itself. Just being able to sink into who it is that I am, the heart that I have, and also just knowing if you are involved with the conflict, they don't know you in the way that you know yourself, right? So if somebody has been projecting things on you or telling you things about yourself, with the energy of Leo Sun trine Chiron, come back to what it is that you know to be true about you. You know your heart, you know your soul. Don't allow other people and their projections of you to take you away from what you know to be true. And ensure that you show up, even in frustrating situations, in alignment with your true character. And we all have moments of not being perfect, but with Sun trine Chiron, it's just getting back to your own authentic truth and your own authentic expression. And just knowing that your dream life is a life that accurately reflects you. It's not what other people would consider a dream life. It is a life in which you like yourself. It is a life in which you like your life, you like what you do, and you like living it. Like, that is your dream life. And with the energy of Sun trine Chiron, there is a need. And with the energy of Sun trine Chiron, it's getting back to that authenticity of who it is that you are, and maybe separating from who it is that you are not, right? Like, I am not somebody who gets involved in this petty workplace gossip, or I am not somebody who's going to get involved in this baseball argument, or maybe it's even this energy around, if this shows up around, you're always the one who says yes to all the projects. Maybe with Leo Sun trine Chiron, advocating for yourself and saying, no, not this time, is you healing the version of yourself where you felt like you always needed to please other people, and coming back to the authenticity around, my job is not to please everybody and to be everything to everyone. It's to be myself, and that will align for some and not align for others. And it's not my responsibility to please everyone. There could also be something like that coming alive. That evening, to be exact, at 10:30 p.m., Mars will square off with Saturn. And this is when you could feel like you hit a wall. And I do want to say that even though Mars square Saturn doesn't exact until 10:30 p.m. PDT on Thursday, You could feel this build all day where you are just not in the mood. You're drained, you're depleted, you're exhausted, you're burnt out. Some people are burnt out. And maybe you're burnt out because you're saying yes to everybody and trying to be everything to everyone. And with the energy of Sun trine Chiron, yes, is it vulnerable to be like, hey, I don't have the bandwidth this week, or hey, I'm going through it, I can't run this errand for you? Yes, it takes vulnerability. There's strength in vulnerability. But with Mars square Saturn, it's being realistic with what you have the capacity for right now. Even if you feel like that's letting people down, or allowing yourself to come clean around, hey, I'm not perfect. And with Mars square Saturn, you could just be feeling a little defeated. You could have taken a risk on Wednesday and felt like you were shot down on Thursday. Like this happens one after the other. You could have gotten involved into a conflict on Wednesday and felt defeat on Thursday. You could have said yes to a project on Wednesday and then realized that you're over capacity on Thursday. Like it's real bam bam energy, which is why in the vibe check it was like getting involved in the conflict and right away being like, ooh, never mind. Never mind. And with the energy of Mars square Saturn, it's important to rest, not give up, but rest. If it's something important to you, Saturn does ask for consistency and just knowing if you're drained, if you're exhausted, if you're depleted, tomorrow is a new day and you could begin again. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, we don't see the world clearly when we are tired, when we are drained, when we are overwhelmed, when we are stressed. And so you could feel like that's really depleting your spirit. You could be being very hard on yourself right now. You could be feeling like you don't have a fight in you anymore. You could be running on empty, legitimately. And there is an ask to take care of yourself. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Haley Comet, how am I meant to take care of myself with all of the responsibilities that are on my plate and all of the things that I have to do? We talked about this last week. There's always going to be things that you could be doing. You know, Mars, how we advocate, it's how we fight to get what we want. And so this could also be energy around observing your competitors at business and feel like everybody's doing better than you and feeling kind of like a loser. And there's just an energy where you're not seeing the world clearly. Allow yourself to rest, take a pause, take a break. You will be so much more powerful. You rejuvenate your energy stores because truly your dream job will feel like a nightmare if you are absolutely burnt out, drained, depleted. Your amazing relationship will feel constrictive if you are not taking care of your own needs amidst it. Like we don't see the world clearly when we are viewing things through this lens of scarcity, feeling drained, feeling depleted, not having the energy to exert. We don't see the world clearly. We don't see ourselves clearly. And so that's just something important to honor on Thursday. And I feel like with this happening around Sun trine Chiron, it's just healing sense of self. If you felt like you've had to be Superman, you feel like you've had to be Superwoman, you feel like you've had to do all the things and be all the people and say yes to everything and be the one around how does he do it all? How does she do it all? To a certain degree, that could keep you trapped in feeling overburdened, overcapacity, in this energy to exude and project this identity around they do it all. They do it all. We can't do it all. Saturn energy makes that very clear. Will your pride sometimes take a hit when you allow yourself to be human and allow yourself to acknowledge I'm not Superman, I'm not Superwoman, I cannot do it all, right? Absolutely. But with Sun trine Chiron, there's a healing sense to our identity around allowing ourselves to be human and to be vulnerable and to be messy. It's okay. No one's expecting you to do it all and be it all. And you're going to burn yourself out trying. And just know, if you're feeling defeated, if you're feeling drained, you might feel so different after a nap and a snack. My mom always tells me that. A nap and a snack, a nap and a snack. So if you're feeling drained, take a nap, eat a snack. You never know how that'll help you bounce back and help you see the world more clearly. Because again, we do not see the world clearly when we're depleted and drained and burnt out. And so for Thursday's lunar energy, you could be feeling quite mentally foggy, and we see this with the Sagittarius moon squaring off with Neptune, which is very much head in the clouds. And like I was saying about burnout, it shows up in many different ways. A lot of times it shows up around anxiety, having a hard time focusing, right? Feeling frazzled, feeling all over the place, which isn't very productive, which is why oftentimes if you do find that you're nearing burnout, the most productive thing that you could do is actually take a break. Because if you rejuvenate your mental stores, when you come back, you won't have freaking mush for a brain. Like you'll be able to talk, you'll be able to communicate. We can find we're more forgetful because Mercury is retrograde also. And we could just feel like our brain is just mush. Just a mushy brain. And then after the moon squares Neptune, it does trine Neptune. So yeah, our brain is a little mush, But with the trine to Mercury in Leo, maybe it's taking a little break and then coming back and being able to finish the project. Or maybe it's giving yourself a pep talk in order to allow yourself to keep moving forward. After that, the moon enters Capricorn at 10:51 a.m. So just a short void moon on Thursday morning from 9:51 until the moon enters Capricorn. So just avoid any deeply important tasks during that time. And with the moon in Capricorn, this means business, right? And it's important not to sink too much into hustle, grind, overexert yourself, don't eat. Because with Mars square Saturn building that evening, we're going to hit a wall eventually, right? So yes, with the energy of Capricorn, allow yourself to ground down in what it is that you need to get done, on how it is that you could show up to be the apex of what you can do, but honor the limitations of your physical body, of your physical energy, and knowing that doing your best and doing the best are different things. Do not allow yourself to feel suffocated or overwhelmed by needing to do the best or looking at all your competitors and feeling less than. Just focus today on doing your best, which might mean being able to operate at 90%, maybe in some days that's operating at 20%. If a lot is happening within your mind, if that is your best, that's all that Thursday's astrology is asking you to do, is just show up with your best foot forward. On Friday, August 16th at 12:08 p.m., the moon in Capricorn, which is the sign of its detriment, will trine Venus in Virgo, which is the sign of its fall. So we have two planets that are not dignified, right? Moon is a little bit too harsh in Capricorn. Venus is a little too critical in Virgo, but they're linking up. And what I will say you have access to on Friday, especially with the moon going on to sextile Saturn, is just finding a certain pleasure and enjoyment of your work or of the little things. Like feeling the pleasure that comes from a job well done, or doing the best that you could, or being productive, getting something done, handling one of those pesky to-dos that you've been meaning to get done. Again, sometimes pleasure shows up in ice cream sundaes and romantic dates, and sometimes pleasure is the little things, right? It's checking something off the to-do list. It's finally unloading the dishwasher. It's washing your sheets and feeling how good it feels at the end of the night to get in. There's just an ask on Friday to enjoy the simple things, right? And to feel the internal satisfaction that comes from a job well done, to feel the satisfaction that comes from productivity, to feel the satisfaction that comes from creating a body of work or creating something that you're proud of. Like there's just an energy to allow that to feel good where possible without being too harsh on yourself, because we still have Mars square Saturn separating the cosmos. So you can be feeling defeated, you can be feeling drained, and there might be an ask on Friday around where it is that you work the muscle around what do I like about my job? What are the tasks that give me pleasure, or the people I work with that I enjoy, or the ways that I spend my lunch break that do facilitate pleasure? Like we really sometimes, especially with Jupiter square Saturn building and getting closer and closer, lands officially on Monday, we do have to work that muscle of optimism, of joy, of good feelings. And a lot of times it shows up in the simple things. Like life is made up of a lot of little things. So you've got to work that muscle of finding appreciation for the little things. Like let me know below in the comments, what is something so silly or so mundane that just makes you happy? I would love to know. Like for me, one of my favorite weekly rituals is I love watering my plants. I have a whole system. I always do it in the morning time. I put on a record because my plants like listening to music. I typically will sing along and talk to them, and I just water each of my plants, and then I mist it. And it's just like an opportunity for me to start the day like singing to some music, watering my plants, checking in on their growth. Is it mundane? Is it a little boring? Absolutely, but it truly is the little things of life. And if you're moving through something, sometimes those little things of life are your lifeline that keep you going. And so there's just an ask on Friday to find those appreciation for those little things. And also, if you are moving through something, maybe even work can be a distraction. Again, not burning yourself out. Mars square Saturn is still separating, but there can be an energy around just allowing yourself one step at a time, do the best that you can, put your best foot forward. And with the Capricorn moon sextile Saturn and Pisces around like 5:49 p.m., this is also giving the energy around the reward for a job well done. Like, you know, those work days when you're really productive and you feel good about, you know, putting on a TV show or making your dinner and you just feel at ease with yourself. You're like, I got a lot done. There's just a nice feeling about it, and allows you to really sink into your leisure time and sink into your rest and relaxation around, I deserve this. And again, I'm not saying that you need to work in order to deserve rest. I do feel that rest is not just our birthright, but it's a necessary component to being a human being and having a human body. But I'm just saying it is helpful, especially with the Capricorn moon energy. There can be an energy around not feeling guilty, around allowing yourself to watch your show and make a Sunday or what have you, because you know that you did the best that you could that day and you got a lot done. And I say that because early Saturday, so you may feel this Friday night, the Capricorn moon does square Chiron, which can just bring up these energies around, I'm not doing enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not enough. And it's just important to remind yourself, I'm doing the best that I can, right? I got A, B, and C done. Like I constantly get into this loop around, I'm not doing enough, I should be doing more. And something that's been very helpful is journaling around what I do every single day, or even time blocking and seeing the amount of time that I see. I'm doing a lot. Like, what is this voice telling me I'm not doing enough, right? Sometimes you have to kind of show to yourself and show to that critical mind within, I'm doing plenty. Listen, I'm doing plenty. I'm doing enough. I am enough. Pipe down. On Saturday, August 17th, I do want to highlight that the Capricorn moon does square Chiron in Aries at 3:30 a.m., which could bring up lingering feelings of guilt around not doing enough. You could be beating yourself up if you did make a mistake this week, if there was something that didn't work out, if you did feel defeated in some way, you could be being very harsh on yourself. That's why the moon does not particularly like being in Capricorn. There might be a need on Saturday morning to distract yourself. If that's you with the energy of Capricorn moon, trine Uranus, go hike. Go on an adventure, get some new stimuli in, right? Remind yourself that it's a big, beautiful world that exists beyond your work mistake, or beyond that humbling moment when you turned around to fight with the baseball fans and realized, ooh, yeah, I picked the wrong battle here. There's a big, beautiful world out there. Don't allow your current trials and tribulations allow you to forget that. The Capricorn moon sextiles Neptune in Pisces, also an ask for perspective, connecting to your own intuition. That lands at 1:43 p.m. So even if you're doing something mundane on Saturday, finding the Neptunian value of it, going out of your way to bring hope to somebody else. One of the best things that we could do if we're going through something challenging is to help other people, to volunteer, or even just to share a comforting word, to give advice to a friend. Like, as humans, it feels very good to help other people. So if you do feel lost or desolate, sometimes the life vest that we can reach for is just being of service to another human. Like, sometimes that can help you feel a little bit more anchored, even if you feel a little lost at sea. And the moon will be void for about an hour until the moon enters Aquarius at 2:45 p.m., going on to meet up with Pluto. So I want to let you know, my loves, that this is the sign of the full moon on Monday, and emotions can be high. You could be feeling quite busy, and the vibe, there could just be a very intense, frenetic vibe this weekend. Like at the grocery store, at work, like everybody could just feel a little wacky. Listen. You can't spell lunatic without Luna. There's a reason people lose their minds around full moons. Okay, we get a little wacky. And with the energy of Moon, Pluto, things could just feel very intense. It might just be a trip to the grocery store, but for some reason it just feels intense and filled with trials and tribulations, and your emotions could feel all over the map. Again, grounding is important in order to navigate. And mentally, you could just feel very restless and all over the place because we do have Mercury aligning to square Uranus early Sunday. And so there could be shocking news that comes out this weekend. There could be surprising information that is revealed. Your mind might just be feeling very scattered, very restless, very all over the place. Someone could say something to you that's not expected. You could say something to somebody else that's not expected. What I will say, as an overall energy this weekend, the truth is coming out around something. We've got a Mercury Cazimi in Leo. And there might be truth that comes out that is not what you were expecting. That's not what you were anticipating. You may have thought that you would turn around and see a certain group of people based on their voices. This is who you thought that you would be taken on in this battle. But with Mercury square Uranus, it is that moment around, oh wow, I just ran my mouth at a pack of 15 large people with face paint and jerseys who are not the people I want to mess with. Like, great. Like, Mercury square Uranus is expect the unexpected energy, and there can be a truth that's coming out that's out of left field around what? Who did what with who? Like, there can be either news that comes out, information that's received, a message that you receive that's shocking. And just know that things do come to light eventually. You know, when we have a very Saturnian week and really a Saturnian month, Saturn is around karma. And like I said, we don't need to get personally involved in being people's karma. That is their responsibility. But what I will say is this weekend, around things that we've tried to shroud in darkness, we've got a Mercury Cazimi in the sign of the sun, right? What was in the darkness, what was in the shadows is coming to light, and it might be shocking with the square to Uranus. So just prepare for that if that comes into your Saturday. On Sunday, August 18th, at 2:47 a.m., Mercury in Leo will square Uranus in Taurus. Now, this is the second pass, and so while this can bring shocking, unexpected information, it can be in relation to something that has been ongoing. I want you to think back to what you were thinking about or what sort of conversations you were having. July 21st, this was the day of the Capricorn full moon, or even just like shocking news that came to light around that time. There can be more information that surfaces around that ongoing story. We've got a Mercury Cazimi at 6:58 p.m. The word Cazimi means in the heart of the sun. It's when sun and Mercury fuse to become one. And essentially, there could be information that is illuminated, that comes to light, maybe on this ongoing story, maybe it's an unexpected development, but there can be something shocking that surfaces this weekend, especially since we're around a full moon. Fascinating. The first time this hit was during the Capricorn full moon, and now it's landing during the Aquarius full moon. So things are coming to light, unexpected messages, and maybe this is even revelations, epiphanies, just things that were not expected, a change of perspective, a change of heart, even with the energy of the Mercury Cazimi Leo, which governs the heart space. So just know things might feel a little wacky. We're building to the full moon, so emotions might feel more intense. They might feel more exaggerated. And do know that the truth always comes out and it will set you free. And we see that with the Aquarius moon trine Jupiter and Gemini, where even if information surfaces that is not what you wanted, it can help you proceed forward. A lot of times when we're left in the dark around something, when all of the information around a situation has not been revealed to us, it keeps us stagnant. It keeps us stuck in situations. And oftentimes when something's revealed, even if it's not what we wanted, this is not the information I wanted, at least it gives me the permission to move forward, to let this go, to move in a new direction. At least it sets me free. So it could be disheartening if it is unexpected bad news. It could be unexpected good news, honestly. Uranus is neutral, it's just something unexpected coming to light. But either way, I just see with the Aquarius moon going on to trine Jupiter and Gemini, there's an energy where we feel more free to move forward because of what's surfacing. We could have an epiphany around that allows us to feel more inspired or more optimistic around the direction that we're moving, or something comes to light that allows us to feel free from our own interpretation of the situation. There can be an energy where we're waking up feeling a little stressed, feeling a little scattered, feeling a little restless, unexpected news coming in, unexpected messages. Keep in mind, Mercury's retrograde, so some of you could get a notification, a follow, a text, a message that you're like, what? I was not expecting that, because Mercury retrograde can have us more nostalgic or reflective around situations from the past, and somebody could want to reach out to you that has you shocked, right? With the energy of Uranus being all around lightning, you could be like, what? You could wake up half asleep and be like, am I dreaming, or is this really the name that I see on my phone? And it could be someone very random. Like if you're thinking right now, like, oh gosh, I hope it's my favorite ex, or oh gosh, I hope it's that best friend who I haven't talked to. No, it's gonna be someone random. It's gonna be like your 5th grade ex-boyfriend from your hometown. It's gonna be like that person that you made out with at the frat. Like it's gonna be someone out of left field that you're just like, huh? And for some, this won't be for everybody, but they could have something that they need to come to light about. Some information could come to light. There could be like a confession, an apology, information that they tell you. There could be something surprising that comes to light. And the truth always comes to light. And so that is something to rest easy in. If you are navigating through and in a season of confusion, there can be information that surfaces that allows you to move forward in some way, whether it's moving forward feeling more optimistic around the direction that you've chosen with moon trine Jupiter, or even having the freedom around, now that I know who you are, now that I know what this is, this makes me feel more free to move forward. Now that I see what it is, I want no parts. So there could be some unexpected information. It could be good information, it could be bad information, but it's just something that does feel like it's bringing clarity. And if there is an important conversation that you want to have on Sunday, keep in mind Mercury's retrograde, which can be a time of dealing with matters that are ongoing, dealing with matters of the past. The one caution that I want to say is that with Sun, Mercury, especially with it being in the sign of the Sun, Leo, we are having a hard time separating us from the matter. So if you are having a conversation with somebody, it could be hard to see outside of your own personal standpoint or your own point of view. because the two are fused together, ego and our mental space and our communication. So it could be hard to genuinely hear someone out without tinging your own viewpoint or your own experiences on the situation. So you may need to work that muscle around genuinely listening, not just speaking, like listening to what the other person is saying, striving to see their point of view. Luckily the moon's in Aquarius, so hopefully that'll help a little bit in order to really allow the information to come to light, the truth to come to light, maybe on both sides. And that evening, it lands very late, so for a lot of you, this won't happen until early Monday, but we do have Venus in Virgo squaring off with Jupiter in Gemini, which is just a funny alignment. We've got two planets in positions that they are not comfortable in Mercury ruled signs, making a harsh square to one another. So you just could be feeling a little all over the place, a little scattered. You might be contemplating your romantic options. You could be feeling that you have an abundance of options. You could be talking to a lot of people. Maybe for validation with Sun Mercury. There could be excess that comes into your financial world. You know, Venus in Virgo is typically pretty frugal, but when it's talking to Jupiter, you could be overspending. You could also have this energy. Venus in Virgo tends to be very discerning around love and relationships, but with the square to Jupiter, there could be an energy around wanting peace and harmony, that you're sweeping important issues under the rug. Keep in mind, both of these planets are answering to a retrograde ruler. We need to talk about what's under the rug. We cannot just sweep things under the rug. Virgo does not like mess. And there could just be an energy with the Venus square Jupiter where we want to make nice. We want things to be peaceful. We want things to be harmonious. And so much so that we're not having the discussions that we really need to have. And like with the Mercury Cazimi, we need to allow the truth to come to light. And there could be an energy around, I don't want to have this discussion now. I just want us to get along. I just want to eat a nice meal. And again, like I said, sometimes it's helpful to pause, to have a discussion for a time that we feel more able to. But just be mindful, it's a pause. It's not brushing things under the rug and ignoring it. It's an intentional pause to gather your thoughts together. Try to avoid either fear of being alone or just the comfort of the present moment, taking precedence over what really needs to be said, is what I feel is coming alive on Sunday. So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I balance realism with optimism. We currently have Jupiter square Saturn aligning in the cosmos. Do make sure to check out my All Signs deep dive on this energy. You'll want to be dialed into it. And this is an energy where we could be feeling like we're living in extremes, in a sense. Like some of you could feel all the way in Saturn land, which is just feeling so disheartened, so discouraged around your life. Not feeling a sense of faith, not feeling particularly connected to your intuition, just feeling like you want to give up. Honestly, that could be the energy of living in that Saturn extreme. Some individuals could be living in this Jupiter extreme, around wanting growth and wanting to move forward, so much so that we could be being a little bit more risky, being a little bit more impulsive, being a little bit more inclined to gloss over the details. And there's just an ask to balance the two. Work the muscle of being optimistic, of having hope, of having faith. It's not coming easy right now. And we need to balance these two. Be realistic, or else Saturn will punish us. I gotta keep it real with you guys. Listen, the energy of Saturn is around consequences and limitations. We cannot exist purely in Jupiter land. We will get snapped back to reality so quick. So we do need to be realistic, but I don't want you to lose out on that optimism, because that's what keeps us going. Hope is what keeps us showing up. And just knowing it will not always feel like it does today. You may need to get realistic about your situation currently, but allow yourself to attune to the vision of what you're excited by, or what gives you faith, or what you are optimistic about. Sometimes it's naturally reflected in the cosmos. Sometimes, like right now, we're having to work towards it a little bit. So we're having to work that muscle. But it's important to balance both. Try not to let one win out over the other. So my loves, if you made it to the end of the video, go ahead and let me know by commenting the baseball emoji or using the word baseball within a sentence to let me know that you made it to the end. My Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. Reminder, Self-Care Astrology is enrolling all year long. If this is the time that you are feeling inspired to jump in, you can use code MAGIC to save 22% off. And if you join before this Thursday, August 15th, you will be a part of our Aspects Astrology class. It lands at 2 p.m., but you'll also get the replay if you cannot join live, and your chart will be utilized within class examples. So if you understand some elements of astrology, but aspects are what make your head spin, we are breaking it down in the coolest cosmic community on the web. So I would love to see you there. Until we meet again, drink lots of water and Monday.